The coffee was already cold by the time I noticed something was wrong. 7:32 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in our Capitol Hill apartment, and Rachel's phone was buzzing on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. Not unusual, she got notifications constantly for her marketing job, but this time, the screen lit up with a text preview that made my stomach drop. Can't wait to hold you again tonight. Derek misses his baby. Derek, her gay best friend Derek. I'm Tyler Morrison, 24 years old, software developer at a mid-sized tech company downtown. Rachel and I had been together for 2 years, living together for 8 months. That morning started like any other. She showered at exactly 7:25 after yoga, while I made breakfast. We had our routines down perfectly, but that text changed everything. Looking back, this should have been my first red flag. Derek had been in Rachel's life since before we met. When she introduced him at a house party, he was everything you'd expect, perfectly styled, blonde hair, worked as a personal trainer, could quote every episode of Drag Race. He even tried setting me up with his gorgeous friend once before Rachel and I got together. The shower turned off. I quickly set her phone back, trying to look normal when she emerged in her pink robe. "Morning, babe," she said, grabbing her phone without looking. "Did you see my black blazer?" Her fingers flew across the screen, no reaction to whatever texts she was reading. Perfect poker face. "Derek and I are doing SoulCycle after work," she said casually. "He's been going through something with this guy, James, he's seeing." The lie rolled off her tongue like breathing. After she left, I called in sick to work. I needed proof before confronting her, so I checked our shared Google Calendar. SoulCycle with Derek every Tuesday and Thursday. Wine night every other Friday. Saturday yoga, twice a month. But here's what I noticed: every time Rachel had plans with Derek, I mysteriously had something too. A work happy hour I'd forgotten about. Gaming night someone else organized. She'd been orchestrating my entire social calendar around her Derek time. 3 weeks passed of me pretending everything was normal while gathering evidence. Her fitness app was the smoking gun. Those SoulCycle classes? Her heart rate showed steady, moderate activity instead of intense intervals. The GPS, when she forgot to turn it off, placed her at an apartment building in Fremont, not the studio. Then I found Derek's old Facebook, his profile photo from 1 year ago, him and Rachel at a Seahawks game wearing matching jerseys, posted when she'd supposedly been visiting her sick grandmother in Spokane. The comments underneath, "Cute couple," and "When's the wedding?" I threw up, actually ran to our bathroom and threw up. The confrontation came on a Thursday. She texted about SoulCycle with Derek, but I'd already called the studio. They had no 7 p.m. class. I waited in my car outside Derek's apartment building in Fremont. Watched them walk in together at 7:15, his hand on her lower back, her laugh echoing off the walls. They kissed in the doorway, not a friendly peck, a real kiss. I sat there for 90 minutes, engine off, watching their shadows move past the third-floor windows. At 8:45, Rachel emerged alone, calling an Uber. I drove home separately and was sitting on our couch when she walked in at 9:20, gym bag over her shoulder, face flushed. "How was SoulCycle?" I asked. "Brutal," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Derek pushed me hard today. I'm gonna shower." I called the studio, I said quietly. "There's no 7 o'clock class on Thursdays." She froze halfway to the bathroom. I watched her cycle through emotions, confusion, panic, then somehow landing on anger. "You're checking up on me now? Seriously, Tyler? His Facebook says you're a cute couple. From a year ago, when you were supposedly visiting your sick grandmother." The gym bag hit the floor. She tried denying it, then deflecting, then actually blamed me, said I was too boring, too predictable, that Derek made her feel alive. The word she used was passionate. She actually tried to convince me this was my fault for not being exciting enough. "He's not even gay," I said, which somehow felt like the stupidest thing to focus on. "He's bi," she snapped, like that fixed everything. He didn't want to deal with people's assumptions, so we kept it simple. Simple. 2 years of elaborate lies were her definition of simple. She moved out that weekend, taking half our stuff and leaving the coffee maker we'd bought together. I found out later from mutual friends that she'd been telling people we'd grown apart, that it was mutual, that we were still friends. She never mentioned Derek. They became Instagram official 3 months later, claiming they'd just started dating. The twist? 6 months after that, Derek's actual ex-boyfriend, yes, he really had been with men before, reached out to me. Turns out Rachel wasn't Derek's only secret girlfriend. He'd been playing this game with 3 different women, all thinking they were special, all thinking they were the one who'd changed him. The ex-boyfriend had screenshots, dates, receipts, everything. I forwarded all to Rachel. She called me crying at 2 a.m., saying Derek had been using her, that she'd thrown away us for nothing. I listened to her sob for exactly 3 minutes, then said, "Now you know how it feels," and hung up. Sometimes I still make coffee in that same kitchen, in the apartment I kept after she left. The tiles we picked out together are still gray, we'd compromised. But the coffee tastes different now. Better, actually. Like it's finally mine alone. If you want to know how this absolute disaster turned into something even worse, make sure you're subscribed, because trust me, you're not ready for what comes next. Man, stories like this always get to me because we've all been there, right? That moment when someone you trusted completely just reveals who they really are. What kills me about Tyler's story is how Rachel had the audacity to manipulate his entire schedule, basically puppeteering his social life just to maintain her lie. The level of calculation required is honestly terrifying, and Derek playing this weird double agent role, letting Tyler think he was gay while secretly dating his girlfriend, that's next level deception. You know what really stands out though? How Tyler kept doubting himself even with all that evidence staring him in the face. That's what toxic people do. They make you question your own reality until you don't trust your gut anymore. If you're listening and something feels off in your relationship, trust that feeling. Your instincts are usually right, even when someone's gaslighting you into thinking you're crazy. And if you thought Rachel's web of lies was elaborate, wait until you hear what happened to Marcus, because at least Tyler's ex just cheated and lied about it. Marcus's ex-fiancée took manipulation to a whole new level. She systematically turned every single person in his life against him with accusations that could have destroyed his entire future. This next story will make you think twice about how well you really know someone, even the person you're planning to marry. The cease and desist letter arrived on a Thursday morning in February. I was sitting at my desk in my Portland studio apartment, working on a logo design for a cannabis dispensary, when the email notification popped up. Official letterhead from a law firm I'd never heard of. The subject line, formal notice regarding defamatory statements, Sophia Reeves. Sophia, my ex-fiancée who'd left me 8 months earlier, taking with her not just the ring I'd spent 4 months saving for, but apparently my entire reputation. I'm Marcus Webb, 27 years old, freelance graphic designer. I'd built my whole career on word-of-mouth referrals in Portland's creative scene. But suddenly, those referrals had dried up. Clients were ghosting me. Friends weren't returning texts. Even the barista at my regular coffee shop on Alberta Street had started avoiding eye contact. The letter accused me of spreading false and malicious statements about Sophia. The irony was so thick I actually laughed out loud. Me spreading false statements? I hadn't talked to anyone about our breakup except my therapist and my mom. It started when Sophia left me in June. One day we were tasting wedding cakes at Pearl Bakery. The next she was moving out while I was at a client meeting. Her explanation came via text. "I can't do this anymore. You know why." Except I didn't know why. We'd had arguments. Sure, what couple doesn't? But nothing that seemed relationship ending. 2 weeks after she left, my best friend Jordan finally agreed to meet me for beers at Base Camp Brewing. He looked uncomfortable from the moment he sat down, eyes darting around like he was afraid to be seen with me. "Marcus," he said slowly, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did you ever hurt Sophia?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "What? No. Jordan, what the hell are you talking about?" He pulled out his phone, showed me a Facebook post from Sophia. I hadn't seen. She'd blocked me everywhere. It was long, talking about surviving emotional abuse and finally finding the strength to leave. No names, but the details made it obvious who she meant. The comments were full of our mutual friends offering support, calling her brave, saying they'd suspected something was off. "She told me you used to scream at her," Jordan said quietly, "that you'd punch walls, throw things, that you controlled what she wore, who she talked to." My hands were shaking. I'd never done any of those things. The worst fight we'd ever had was when I'd asked her to stop talking to her ex who kept texting at 2 a.m, and even then, I'd apologized for bringing it up. Over the next 3 months, the story evolved. First, I was emotionally abusive. Then, I'd apparently been physically threatening. By September, I heard through my cousin that Sophia was telling people I'd actually hit her. The progression was deliberate, calculated. Each escalation came right when the previous story started losing impact. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of our old texts where she'd told me how safe and loved I felt. Photos from our trips where we both looked genuinely happy. The engagement video my friend had secretly recorded where she was crying with joy, saying yes over and over. But who was going to believe evidence from the abuser? The turning point came in October. I ran into Claire Thompson at a vintage market in Selwood. We'd known each other peripherally through the design community. She invited me for coffee, and against my better judgment, I went. "I know what Sophia's been saying," she said as soon as we sat down, "and I want you to know that not everyone believes it. Claire had been Sophia's friend in college. She'd watched Sophia do this exact same thing to 2 other ex-boyfriends. Same pattern, perfect relationship, sudden departure, escalating accusations. "She's a therapist," Claire said. "She knows exactly what to say to make people believe her. She uses all the right terminology, hits all the right emotional notes." That's when I learned about the group chat. Sophia had created a support group chat for survivors that included most of the women in our friend circle. She was sharing fabricated screenshots of texts I'd never sent, describing incidents that never happened. But here's the truly sick part: she was using real therapy techniques to make them feel like they'd been blind to the warning signs. Claire had screenshots. Sophia describing how I'd love-bombed her at the beginning, I'd brought her flowers on our 3rd date, how I'd isolated her from friends, we'd spent a weekend camping alone for our anniversary, how I'd shown narcissistic rage, I'd been upset when she'd maxed out our joint credit card without telling me. The cease and desist letter was because I'd finally started defending myself. I'd made 1 Facebook post, 1 laying out facts with evidence. Within hours, Sophia was claiming I was stalking and harassing her. The letter threatened a restraining order if I didn't immediately delete everything and cease all contact, including talking about her to mutual friends. I hired my own lawyer with money I didn't have. She reviewed everything and laughed. "This is intimidation tactics 101, she said. "She has no case, but she's counting on you not fighting back." We sent our own letter. Then something beautiful happened. People started reaching out, quietly at first, then more openly. Jordan apologized, said things hadn't been adding up. Other friends admitted they'd noticed inconsistencies in Sophia's stories. The barista at my coffee shop actually high-fived me one morning. The real vindication came last month. Sophia's new boyfriend, a software engineer named David, she'd met on Hinge, reached out to me on LinkedIn of all places. She'd just done the same thing to him, left suddenly, accusations starting, friend group turning against him. But he'd been smart. He'd recorded their conversations for the last month of their relationship because something felt off. He had audio of her laughing about how easy it was to destroy me, how everyone believed her because she was a therapist, how she'd do it again if David ever crossed her. We filed police reports together, connected with her other exes Claire had mentioned, built a case file that would make any detective proud. Turns out there's a word for what Sophia does: DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Classic manipulation tactic that therapists are specifically trained to recognize, which made her use of it even more twisted. Last week, she lost her therapy license. The board doesn't look kindly on therapists who weaponize psychological concepts to harm people. Her current friend group has started reaching out to me, apologizing, saying they had no idea. I'm polite but distant. They chose to believe her without ever asking for my side. I still design logos in my studio apartment, still get coffee on Alberta Street, but now I record first dates, screenshot everything, save receipts. It's exhausting being this careful, but Sophia taught me that sometimes the person claiming to be the victim is actually the predator. And predators can have master's degrees in psychology and know exactly which wounds to exploit. This one hits different, doesn't it? The fact that Sophia was a literal therapist using her training as a weapon that's genuinely scary. What really gets me is how she escalated the lies gradually, testing what people would believe before pushing further. Marcus lost 8 months of his life, his friends, his reputation, almost his career, all because someone knew exactly how to manipulate the current social climate around believing victims. And look, we should believe victims, but people like Sophia make it harder for actual survivors to be heard. The recording from the new boyfriend, though? That's karma working overtime. Sometimes the universe really does keep receipts. If someone in your life is trying to isolate you or turn people against you with stories that don't match reality, document everything. Every text, every email, every interaction. You might need that evidence someday. Speaking of documentation, our next story takes invasion of privacy to a whole different level, because Marcus at least knew something was wrong. Ashley had no idea her entire private life was being broadcast to thousands of strangers until her boyfriend stumbled across a live stream that made his blood run cold. Imagine finding out your roommate and supposed best friend has been secretly monetizing your most vulnerable moments. The notification popped up on Nathan's phone while we were eating Thai food on my couch. Brit Lives LA is going live, it read. He frowned, showing me the screen. Who's Brit Lives LA? Is that your roommate? I looked at the username, confused. Brittany had never mentioned streaming anything. Maybe it's someone else? Brittany's last name is Cole, not Lives LA. But Nathan had already clicked the notification, his phone screen filling with a live stream. The camera angle showed our living room. Our exact living room, the succulents on the windowsill I'd bought at the Silver Lake Farmers Market, the throw pillows we'd picked out at Target, even the Thai food containers on our coffee table. And there was my voice, clear as day, telling Nathan about my patient who'd coded during my clinical rotation that morning. "What the hell?" Nathan whispered, his face going pale. "I'm Ashley Rodriguez, 22 years old, nursing student at UCLA. Brittany and I had been best friends since freshman year, roommates for 3. We'd been through everything together: breakups, family drama, the stress of college. Or so I thought." The livestream title read, "Roomies Back from Hospital Rotation Trauma Dump Time." The viewer count showed 3,400 people watching. The chat was going crazy with messages I couldn't process fast enough. Someone had just donated $50 with a message, "Love these nursing school horror stories. Tell us more about the patient who died." My hands went numb. The patient hadn't died, but I'd shared that fear with Brittany last week, crying in our kitchen at midnight after a particularly rough shift. Now strangers on the internet were asking for more details about my trauma. Nathan was scrolling frantically through the channel history. Hundreds of videos, going back 2 years. Sunday Scaries with Nurse Ashley, roommate's boyfriend drama live updates. Finals week breakdown Real Tears edition. Some had 50,000 views. There was a whole playlist called Ashley's Dating Disasters, with 23 videos. "Turn it off," I said, but my voice sounded far away. Nathan kept scrolling. There were timestamps, clips with titles like Ashley's Dad Calls Daddy Issues Unlocked, and Birth Control Appointment Aftermath Too Much Information Story. She'd been streaming our entire life. My entire life. The next 3 hours were a blur of discovery. The camera was hidden in a fake phone charger plugged into our living room wall. When I went to check, pretending to look for my actual charger, while Brittany was in her room, I found 3 more: kitchen, hallway, even one pointing at my bedroom door. She couldn't see inside my room, thank God, but she could track when I came and went, who I brought home, how long they stayed. Brittany emerged from her room around 9 p.m., all smiles. "Hey babe, want to watch Love Island?" She plopped down between Nathan and me like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't just been broadcasting my breakdown about a dying patient to thousands of strangers. The casualness of it made me want to scream. Instead, Nathan and I exchanged glances and made excuses about needing to study at his place. The second we were in his car, I broke down completely. She knows about my mom's drinking, my brother's autism diagnosis, the abortion I had sophomore year. I told her everything, Nathan, everything. We spent the night going through the videos from Nathan's laptop. It was worse than I'd imagined. She'd built an entire persona around being the chaotic but caring roommate to a disaster nurse girl. There were compilation videos of me crying, tier lists ranking my ex-boyfriends. She'd even posted polls asking viewers to vote on whether Nathan and I would last. Current odds were 60-30 against us. The monetization was the part that broke me. Brittany had made approximately $47,000 in the past year from subscriptions, donations, and sponsorships. There were merch links, actual t-shirts with quotes from my mental breakdowns. Someone had bought a mug that said, "Patient died, but make it fashion," a phrase I'd said once as a dark joke after losing my first patient. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer through UCLA's Student Services. She listened to everything, took notes, then said something that made my blood run cold. "Has she ever filmed you in a state of undress, through closed doors, in the bathroom?" I hadn't even thought to check. When we got back to the apartment, Brittany was at her marketing internship. I found 2 more cameras, one in the bathroom vent, aimed at the shower. Another in my bedroom, built into what I'd thought was a Bluetooth speaker she'd given me for my birthday. "For your study playlists," she'd said. The bathroom camera had its own separate stream, premium subscribers only, $15 a month for exclusive lifestyle content, 300 active subscribers. Do the math, that's another $4,500 per month she was making from footage of me showering, changing, existing in what I thought was privacy. I threw up. Then I called the police. The detective who showed up was surprisingly tech-savvy. He immediately recognized this as a criminal case. California has strict laws about recording someone without consent, especially in private spaces like bathrooms and bedrooms. But Brittany had been smart. The servers were offshore. The payment processing went through cryptocurrency. She'd been planning this from the start. When Brittany came home to find police in our apartment, her mask finally slipped. No more sweet roommate act. She actually laughed. "You're seriously doing this? Ashley, you're nobody. I made you interesting. People love you because of me." "You filmed me in the shower," I said, my voice shaking. "It's not like I posted nudes. I'm not stupid. Everything's artfully censored. Very tasteful. My editor makes sure of that." Her editor. She had an editor for videos of my private life. The legal battle took months. Brittany tried to claim it was all performance art, that I'd verbally consented to being filmed, that as roommates sharing common spaces, she had the right to record. Her fans, she had actual fans, started harassing me online, saying I was trying to destroy a small content creator, that I'd benefited from the attention, that I should be grateful for the platform she'd given me. But then Veronica came forward. She'd been Brittany's roommate 2 years before me. Same story, same hidden cameras, same violation. Together, we found 3 others from Brittany's past. A pattern emerged. She'd specifically chosen roommates with interesting, trauma-filled lives. Nursing students, social workers, teachers, people with stories, people who trusted easily. If you're invested in this train wreck of a story, hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's episode is where things get genuinely unhinged. The criminal case is still pending, but the civil suit just settled. I can't disclose the amount, but let's just say my student loans are gone, and I'll never have to worry about rent again. Brittany's channels were nuked from every platform. Her marketing career ended before it started. Turns out companies don't want to hire someone who secretly films people in bathrooms. The hardest part was learning to trust again. Nathan stuck by me through everything, but I still check every plug, every device, every gift for hidden cameras. Veronica and I actually became friends. Trauma bonding is real. We have a support group for victims of digital violation. You'd be surprised how common this is becoming. Last week, I got a DM from someone claiming to have archives of all Brittany's videos. They offered to sell them back to me for $10,000 to protect my privacy. I forwarded it to the FBI. Turns out Brittany was running this blackmail scheme from her parents' house in Calabasas while out on bail. She's in federal custody now, and I'm finally living alone, in a studio apartment with no roommates, no hidden cameras, and absolutely no phone chargers I didn't buy myself. You know what's really messed up about this story? The casualness of Brittany's violation. She wasn't even hiding it from guilt, she was just hiding it to maximize profit. $47,000 from broadcasting someone's mental health struggles, plus the bathroom footage. That's not just betrayal, that's straight up exploitation. And having an editor to tastefully censor shower recordings, that's a level of premeditation that makes my skin crawl. What Ashley went through is every person's nightmare in the digital age, thinking you're living privately while someone's monetizing your most vulnerable moments. The trauma from something like this doesn't just go away. Ashley will probably never fully trust a roommate again, and honestly, who could blame her? If you're listening and something feels off about someone always knowing your business or showing up with perfect timing, trust your gut, check your spaces, protect your privacy. But at least Ashley's violation was digital. Our next story involves a deception so elaborate that Jamie literally lived with the lie for 8 months. Imagine thinking your boyfriend's severely depressed sister is staying in your guest room, only to find out you've been the unwitting other woman in someone else's marriage. The level of gaslighting in this next one will make you question everything. The UPS driver saved my sanity. That's a weird way to start this story, but if Miguel hadn't accidentally delivered Sarah's prescription anxiety medication to my door instead of leaving it at the building's main office, I might have spent years living in Christopher's elaborate lie. I'm Jamie Chen, 25 years old, UX designer at a startup in downtown San Francisco. I'd met Christopher at a tech mixer in Soma 8 months earlier. He was everything I thought I wanted: established, sophisticated, 31 with a real job as a finance manager, not another startup dreamer, living on ramen and equity promises. He had his life together, or so it seemed. The package arrived on a Wednesday morning in March. I was working from home, designing user flows for a meditation app. Ironic, considering my stress levels were about to skyrocket. The label read Sarah Daniels with our apartment number. Christopher's last name was Daniels. His severely depressed sister, who'd been living in our guest room for 4 months, was named Sarah. But the medication wasn't for depression. It was Klonopin, prescribed for panic disorder, from a psychiatrist in Marin County. The same psychiatrist Christopher supposedly drove his sister to see every Tuesday and Thursday morning before work. Except the prescription address wasn't ours. It was an address in the inner Richmond, where Christopher claimed his gym was located. Something felt off, but I pushed it down. Sarah had been through so much: a bad divorce, Christopher had said, lost her job, needed somewhere safe to stay. She kept completely different hours from us, sleeping during the day, up all night with insomnia. I'd maybe seen her 5 times in 4 months, always in passing. She'd mumble hello and disappear back into the guest room. That evening, Christopher came home with takeout from our favorite Vietnamese place on Geary. He kissed me, asked about my day, normal boyfriend things. Package came for Sarah, I mentioned casually, watching his face. Her anxiety meds. He didn't miss a beat. Oh good, she was worried they'd be late. Thanks, babe. He grabbed the package and headed toward the guest room. I heard low voices through the door, his soothing tone, her quiet responses. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Something about the Richmond address kept bothering me. At 3 a.m., I did something I'd never done before I went through Christopher's things. His gym bag, supposedly packed for his morning workout, contained work clothes. No sneakers, no athletic wear, just a pressed shirt and slacks. His phone was charging on the nightstand. I knew his passcode, he'd given it to me months ago, making a big show of trust and transparency. Most of his texts were normal work groups, basketball buddies, his mom. But there was a conversation with someone named S-Doc that made my stomach drop. Can't do Tuesday anymore. Jay is getting suspicious. We need to talk about the lease renewal. She almost saw the ring today. Please be more careful. The ring. What ring? I crept to the guest room door. It was slightly open, and I could see inside for the first time in weeks. The room didn't look like someone was living in depression. It was fully decorated photos on the nightstand, a jewelry box on the dresser, 2 sets of work clothes hanging in the open closet. Men's and women's. A wedding photo tucked behind the lamp, partially hidden but visible if you knew where to look. Christopher and Sarah on a beach somewhere, her in white, him in the same smile he gave me every morning. My legs gave out. I slid down the hallway wall, trying to process what I was seeing. The sister I'd been tiptoeing around, bringing tea to, feeling sorry for she was his wife. His actual, legal wife. I went back to our room, was it even our room? And grabbed my laptop. Facebook search, Sarah Daniels, San Francisco. There she was, married to Christopher Daniels. Anniversary posts from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, photos at the exact restaurants he'd taken me to, vacations to the same places we'd discovered together. The timeline started making 6 sense. Based on her posts, they'd been having problems early last year. Marriage counseling references, vague quotes about working through challenges. Then, 8 months ago, right when Christopher and I met, her posts became about new beginnings and unconventional arrangements. They'd opened their marriage, or at least, that's what Christopher had told her. I found her Instagram, which told a different story. Recent photos were all selfies, alone, captions about when he works late and another night in. She looked exhausted, thin, nothing like the glowing bride in the wedding photo. She'd been living in our guest room, their guest room, like a ghost while Christopher played house with me. The next morning, Christopher left for his gym at 6 a.m. like always. 20 minutes later, Sarah emerged from the guest room. I was waiting in the kitchen, coffee made for 2. We need to talk, I said. She froze. For the first time, we really looked at each other. She was pretty under the exhaustion, with the same nervous energy I'd mistaken for depression. You know, she said. It wasn't a question. How long? I asked. How long what? How long have I known about you? Since the beginning. How long have I been living here? 4 months, like he told you. How long have we been married? 7 years this August. 7 years. I'd been helping someone celebrate their 7th anniversary while thinking I was dating a single man. Sarah sat down across from me, wrapping her hands around the coffee mug like it could keep her grounded. He told me you knew, she said quietly. Said you were fine with polyamory, that this was all agreed upon. But you didn't know I existed, did you? He said you were his sister, his depressed, divorced sister who needed help. She laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. Divorced, that's what he wants. I won't sign the papers. California's a community property state, and I gave up my career to support his, so he came up with this arrangement. I get to stay in our apartment, keep my health insurance, maintain the lifestyle. In exchange, I pretend to be invisible while he dates you. Why? My voice cracked. Why would you agree to this? Have you seen rent prices in San Francisco? I'm a part-time bookkeeper with no savings. He makes $200,000 a year. The math is pretty simple. She paused, studying my face. Plus, I kept thinking he'd come back, that he'd get you out of his system, and remember he loved me. The truth unfolded over the next 2 hours. Christopher had been planning this for a year. He'd convinced Sarah that separation would help their marriage, that dating other people would make him appreciate her more. He'd moved her into the guest room, set up elaborate schedules to keep us apart. Tuesday and Thursday mornings weren't gym or psychiatrist visits. He was taking Sarah to work across the city. The late nights at the office were dinners with her, maintaining just enough connection to keep her hoping. The ring, I said suddenly. The text about a ring. Sarah's face crumbled. My engagement ring. I still wear it sometimes. Pathetic, right? He was worried you'd see it and ask questions. We sat in that kitchen until Christopher came home at lunch. He always came home at lunch to check on his sister. He found us at the table, his laptop open between us, bank statements and lease agreements spread out like evidence. His face went through so many expressions: confusion, fear, anger, finally settling on something like resignation. "I can explain," he started. "Don't," Sarah said, standing up. "I'm done. I'll sign your divorce papers, but I want alimony, the full retirement match, and 3 months to find a place." He turned to me. "Jamie, this isn't what it looks like. You kept your wife in our guest room," I said. "You made me complicit in an affair I didn't know I was having. You let me bring her tea thinking she was your depressed sister. What exactly isn't it? I moved out that day, took only what was mine, which wasn't much. Sarah helped me pack, both of us crying and laughing at the absurdity. She's actually the one who told me about Miguel, the building manager who'd known the truth all along but couldn't legally say anything. He'd been leaving packages at my door hoping I'd figure it out. The divorce proceedings are ongoing. I'm being deposed next week as a witness. Christopher tried to claim I knew about the marriage, that I was a willing participant. But I have texts, emails, months of evidence showing he consistently referred to Sarah as his sister. Sarah and I still text sometimes. She got her own place in Oakland, started therapy, even went on a date last week. She sent me a selfie from the restaurant, same place Christopher had taken both of us for our first date. We laughed about it. Sometimes that's all you can do. This one makes me physically uncomfortable because of the layers of manipulation. Christopher didn't just cheat, he created an entire alternate reality where his wife had to pretend to be his sister and watch him romance another woman in her own home. The psychological torture of that is beyond comprehension. And Jamie, unknowingly participating in this woman's humiliation, bringing her tea, feeling sorry for her depression that was actually devastation from watching her husband with another woman, that's a special kind of twisted. The fact that Sarah helped Jamie pack, that they text now, that's the only redemptive part of this nightmare. Sometimes the person you think is your enemy is actually the only other person who understands exactly how you've been violated. If your partner's family stories seem overly complicated, or you're never allowed to properly meet them, trust your instincts. Real families don't require elaborate scheduling to avoid each other. Speaking of elaborate deceptions, our next story takes everything to another level. Because Christopher at least kept his double life in one location, Catherine's husband managed to maintain 2 complete families just 20 minutes apart. And the way she found out? Let's just say sometimes food delivery apps reveal more than just what's for dinner. The DoorDash driver stood at my door holding a Happy Meal, 2 kids' meals from Chick-fil-A, and a tired expression. "Order for Michael Walsh?" he asked, checking his phone. "We didn't order anything," I said, confused. It was 7:30 on a Tuesday evening in our Highlands Ranch home. Michael was supposedly in Colorado Springs for a pharmaceutical conference. "This address is on the app," the driver insisted, showing me his screen. 1 Happy Meal for Tommy, nuggets for Emma, and a spicy deluxe for Jessica, already paid for. Tommy, Emma, Jessica. I didn't know anyone by those names. I'm Catherine Walsh, 32 years old, real estate agent with RE/MAX. Michael and I had been married for 6 years, together for 8. We had 2 kids, Lily, 5, and Jackson, 3. That Tuesday changed everything. I took the food, tipped the driver, and stared at the receipt. The order had definitely come from Michael's DoorDash account. I recognized the email. But who were Tommy, Emma, and Jessica? The delivery address was ours, but the pickup location was a McDonald's in Parker, 20 minutes away. Why would someone order from Parker to Highlands Ranch when there was a McDonald's 5 minutes from our house? I texted Michael, "Did you order DoorDash?" His response came quickly, "No, babe, in conference session." Why? I tried calling, but it went straight to voicemail. Something felt wrong. I opened his DoorDash account. We shared passwords for everything, part of our total transparency rule after his brother's messy divorce. The order history made my blood run cold. Regular orders to 2 addresses, ours and 1 in Parker. The Parker orders were always kid-friendly, Happy Meals, chicken tenders, pizza, multiple times a week for the past 5 years. 5 years. My hands shook as I put our kids to bed and opened my laptop. The Parker address led me to a modest 2-story house on Zillow. Sold 3 years ago to Jessica Rivera, single woman. Public records showed she was 28, worked as a dental hygienist. Her Facebook was mostly private, but her profile photo showed 2 kids. 2 kids who looked exactly like mine. The boy had Michael's distinctive green eyes and dimpled chin. The girl had the same wild curly hair as our Lily, the same nose. The resemblance was undeniable. The ages lined up too perfectly. The boy looked about 5, the girl maybe 3. I drove to Parker that night, leaving the kids with our neighbor. The house was normal, suburban, with a minivan in the driveway. A minivan with a Daddy's Girl sticker and one of those family decals, man, woman, 2 kids. The man figure had a briefcase. Michael carried a briefcase. Through the window, I could see them having dinner. Michael, who was supposedly in Colorado Springs, was cutting up chicken nuggets for a little boy. The woman, Jessica, was laughing at something he said. The little girl was in a high chair, making a mess with applesauce. They looked like a perfect family. Because they were a family. His other family. I sat in my car for 40 minutes, watching my husband live a life I didn't know existed. He helped with homework, gave piggyback rides, did the exact bedtime routine he did with our kids: brush teeth, story, forehead kiss. At 9:15, he walked out, got in his car, and drove home. To me, he walked in at 9:37, looking tired. Conference was brutal, he said, kissing my cheek. I'm gonna shower and crash. I let him shower, let him get in bed. Then I placed the DoorDash receipt on his nightstand and said, Tommy and Emma's food got delivered here by mistake. The silence stretched for 17 seconds. I counted. Catherine, I can explain. 5 years, I said. The orders go back 5 years. He sat up, and in the dim light from our bathroom, I watched him calculate his options. Deny, deflect, partial truth. Finally, he went with the full truth, delivered in the calm tone he used for sales presentations. He'd met Jessica at a medical conference. One night turned into an affair. She got pregnant. He'd planned to end it, but then she had Tommy, and the baby looked so much like him. So he split his time. Pharmaceutical sales required travel anyway. Half his business trips were just 20 minutes away. Do you love her? I asked. I love both of you, he said, like that made it better. Does she know about me? No. The meticulous planning was staggering. Separate bank accounts I didn't know about. A fake apartment address for his official documents there. He'd even enrolled their kids in the same activities as ours, but at different locations, soccer at different fields, swimming at different pools. He'd been at 2 kindergarten graduations last month, 2 hours apart. The vacations, I said, remembering. When you had that conference in Phoenix last Christmas? Disney World with them, he admitted. You took the kids to your parents' house. Every conference was them. Every late meeting was dinner there. He'd been living 2 complete lives, and his greatest fear wasn't getting caught, it was the schedules overlapping. He showed me his phone, 2 calendars color-coded, blue for us, green for them. Some days had both colors, carefully timed to avoid conflict. I called Jessica that night from my car, parked outside a 24-hour Walgreens. She didn't believe me at first. I had to send wedding photos, birth certificates, 5 years of family Christmas cards. When it finally sank in, she said something that broke me. He's at a conference in Colorado Springs. He'll be back tomorrow. We met the next morning at a Starbucks between our houses. Same exhausted eyes, same betrayed expression. She brought the kids, I had to see them in person. Tommy walked exactly like Jackson, that same little swagger. Emma had Lily's laugh. We were raising genetic siblings who'd never met. He coaches Tommy's t-ball team, Jessica said numbly. He coaches Jackson's too, I replied. Different leagues. We compared calendars, credit card statements, text messages. The overlap was perfect and horrifying. Valentine's Day dinners exactly 1 day apart. Mother's Day brunches, at the same restaurant, different locations. He'd bought us the same anniversary gift, David Yurman bracelets, just different colors. We confronted him together, in the parking lot of his office. His co-workers watched through the windows as 2 women with 4 kids who looked like carbon copies demanded answers. He actually tried to run, just got in his car and tried to leave, but Jessica had let the air out of his tires. She'd thought ahead. The divorce was brutal and public. Colorado's bigamy laws are strict, and while he hadn't legally married Jessica, fraud charges were filed for the false documents he'd submitted for their kids' schools and insurance. His pharmaceutical company fired him immediately. The country club revoked his membership. His reputation, carefully built over 15 years, destroyed in 3 weeks. Jessica and I split everything. The houses, the retirement accounts, the hidden assets his forensic accountant discovered. We even coordinated custody schedules so the kids could finally meet their siblings. They get along beautifully, these accidental brothers and sisters who share a father but not a life. Michael lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in Aurora now. He gets the kids all 4 every other weekend. The logistics alone are his karma. Watching him try to manage 4 kids who figured out they can unite against him, that's my personal satisfaction. You know what's absolutely insane about this story? The sheer logistics Michael managed for 5 years. 2 t-ball teams, 2 sets of parent-teacher conferences, 2 entire lives with kids who look identical. The man basically had a secret identity, like he was living in a spy movie, except instead of saving the world, he was just destroying 2 families. And that DoorDash slip-up? After 5 years of perfect deception, technology betrayed him with a food delivery mix-up. There's something poetic about that. Catherine and Jessica teaming up instead of turning on each other, that's the redemption here. Those kids are going to grow up knowing their moms chose solidarity over hatred. If your partner's schedule seems impossibly complicated or they're weirdly protective about certain parts of their routine, maybe pay attention. Sometimes the red flags are just logistics that don't quite add up. But at least Michael kept his affairs human. Our last story involves someone who turned an entire fitness community into her personal hunting ground. Brandon thought his girlfriend's dedication to CrossFit was about health and wellness. Turns out, she was collecting his workout partners like Pokemon cards, and the way he found out will make you never look at fitness apps the same way again. The Strava notification popped up while I was foam rolling after a brutal CrossFit workout. Alexis Murray just completed morning burn with David Chen. I checked the time, 6:15 a.m. That was weird. Alexis had left our apartment at 5:30 for her yoga instructor course downtown. David was my workout partner. Why were they training together? I'm Brandon Torres, 26 years old, physical therapist at Austin Sports Medicine. I'd met Alexis at CrossFit Central 14 months ago. She was new to Austin, fresh from getting her yoga certification in Costa Rica, all golden skin and perfect form. Every guy in the gym wanted her attention. Somehow, she'd chosen me, or so I thought. The Strava activity showed a 7-mile run through Zilker Park. David's route, the one we ran every Thursday. But this was Tuesday, and Alexis supposedly didn't run bad knees from her dancer days, she'd always said. I texted David, "Solid run this morning?" His response took 20 minutes. "Yeah, man," PR'd my mile split. No mention of Alexis. That afternoon at the gym, I watched Alexis teach her yoga class. 15 men, 2 women. She gave adjustments, hands on shoulders, hips, lower backs. Normal instructor stuff, except I noticed how she lingered on certain people. David, Eric from our Olympic lifting crew, Justin who owned the supplement shop next door, all guys from my training circle. After class, she kissed me in front of everyone. "How was your day, babe?" Like she hadn't been running with David at dawn, like everything was normal. That night, I did something I'd never done, checked her fitness apps. We shared locations for safety, standard couple stuff in Austin, but Strava tells more than location. It shows workout partners, times, routes, heart rate zones. The data painted a picture I didn't want to see. Monday, recovery swim with Rob at Barton Springs, 6 a.m. Tuesday, run with David. Wednesday, private training with Eric at his home gym. Thursday, partner yoga with Carlos. Friday, strength session with Justin. Every single one was from our gym. Every single one was my friend, training partner, or workout buddy. She'd been systematically working through my entire athletic social circle. I confronted her that Friday night. We were supposed to go to the gym's monthly social, but I couldn't pretend anymore. "You ran with David Tuesday morning," I said. "You told me you had yoga training." She didn't even flinch. David needed help with his form. I was doing him a favor. And Eric, Rob, Justin, Carlos, they all needed help too. Her face shifted, that yoga calm mask slipping. "You're seriously tracking my workouts? That's psycho behavior, Brandon. You're sleeping with my entire gym. They're workouts," she said, but her voice had changed. "God, you're so insecure. This is why I need space to train with other people. You're suffocating." Classic deflection. I'd studied this in therapy after my ex. Make me the villain for discovering her lies. But I had more evidence. Screenshots from the gym's WhatsApp group that my buddy Marcus had sent me. Guys comparing notes, realizing they'd all had similar experiences. Recovery sessions at her apartment. Flexibility training that went way beyond stretching. Nutrition consultations that happened in her bedroom. The group chat was damning. 5 different guys, all thinking they were special, all getting the same treatment. She'd even used the same lines. "You have so much untapped potential. I've never met anyone with your natural athleticism. We have this unique connection through movement." Eric's message was the worst. "Bros, she told me she and Brandon were in an open relationship." We were definitely not in an open relationship. I drove to the gym at 5:45 Saturday morning. Alexis had left for instructor training again, but her car was in the CrossFit Central lot. Through the window, I saw her in the yoga studio with Carlos, and they weren't doing yoga. Not unless yoga now involved significantly less clothing and more horizontal positions. I didn't interrupt. Instead, I went to Patricia Stone, the gym owner, showed her everything. The messages, the schedule patterns, the fact that Alexis was using the gym space for her extracurriculars. Patricia's face went from confused to furious. Turns out, This was a liability nightmare instructor. Student relationships were strictly prohibited, especially on property. Patricia pulled the security footage. 2 weeks worth, all showing Alexis with different guys, always after hours, always in the yoga studio or recovery room. The massage table in the recovery room had seen things that would make its warranty void. The confrontation happened at the Saturday partner workout. Alexis walked in with Carlos, saw me, and tried to act normal. Then Patricia called everyone together and announced that Alexis was no longer welcome at CrossFit Central, effective immediately. No details, just violation of community standards. Alexis grabbed her things, shot me a look of pure hatred, and left. But the story doesn't end there. Sunday morning, the gym's Wodify app where we track all our workouts got interesting. Someone anonymously posted Alexis's actual workout log, not the public one, but her private notes. She'd been rating us, all of us, like Yelp reviews for human beings. David, 7 out of 10, good stamina, boring conversation. Eric, 8 out of 10, excellent shoulder definition, small dick energy. Justin, 6 out of 10, tries too hard, bought me supplements though. Carlos, 9 out of 10, best abs, worst breath. Me, 5 out of 10, too emotional, stable income. She'd turned our entire gym into her personal athlete catalog, complete with performance metrics that had nothing to do with fitness. The community exploded. Guys who'd thought they were players realized they'd been played. The few women in the gym shared their own stories how Alexis had systematically driven them away from certain classes to eliminate competition. The plot twist came Monday. Justin's girlfriend Sarah reached out to all of us. She'd been tracking Alexis for months, suspicious but unable to prove anything. She had receipts, Venmo transactions from various guys to Alexis for training sessions that were way above normal rates. Alexis hadn't just been collecting lovers, she'd been monetizing them. $200 for flexibility assessment, $300 for personalized nutrition plan, $500 for intensive recovery package. She'd made approximately $15,000 from our gym community in 6 months, all while dating me and living rent-free in my apartment. I changed my locks Monday afternoon. She showed up Tuesday with 2 guys I didn't recognize turned out to be members from Austin Fitness Factory across town, her new hunting ground. She took her stuff while they flexed unnecessarily, trying to intimidate me. I just laughed. They had no idea what they were in for. Last I heard, 3 different gyms had banned her. Word travels fast in Austin's fitness community. She moved to Dallas, probably running the same game there. Someone made an Instagram account, Alexis Gym Warnings, posting alerts when she joined new gyms. It has 4,000 followers. Our gym recovered. The guys bonded over being collectively fooled. We even made t-shirts, survived the Alexis era. Patricia implemented new policies about instructor relationships. I started dating a runner from my clinic who thinks CrossFit is a cult and has never set foot in my gym. Sometimes I see Alexis's workout posts from Dallas. She's targeting CrossFit gyms there now. Same pattern, same yoga instructor story. Part of me wants to warn them. The other part figures they'll learn, just like we did. What absolutely kills me about this story is the systematization of it all. Alexis treated these men like a workout routine scheduled, tracked, rated, and monetized. The Wodify reviews, rating human beings like their Uber rides, that's sociopathic behavior wrapped in Lululemon. And the fact that she specifically targeted Brandon's entire friend group, making him look like the insecure boyfriend while she was literally running a fitness escort service, that's next-level manipulation. The Instagram warning account with 4,000 followers shows how predatory this behavior was. Entire communities rallying to protect each other from one person. Sometimes the most dangerous people aren't the obvious threats. They're the ones who show up with perfect form and a yoga mat. And if you thought these toxic relationships were devastating, trust me, what comes next will make you question everything you believe about trust. Because the next stories isn't about romantic betrayal, it's about the people you never thought you'd need to protect yourself from. Click here, and I'll show you why the most dangerous betrayals happen in broad daylight, in conference rooms, and in the places you're supposed to be safe.